Welcome to our personal empowerment audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Hi, I'm Michael Benner.
And I'm Steve Snyder, and this is our program, The Family Learning Hour. In this episode, we're going to talk about focused passion learning, the idea of creating great interest in everything you have to learn and being able to remember it best when it comes to the test. We've talked about reading and study and taking tests. We want to review that a little bit for you and move on to the idea of why be a great learner and how you can use the experience of school to improve the power of your mind. Let's talk about reading a little bit. And it starts, of course, with creating that magical book.
As my partner Steve here likes to say, you have to often pretend before you tend to do anything. So the magic book is a proven, very powerful and effective way of pretending, of doing mental rehearsal to allow your eyes to automatically read a third of a line at a time. You can see in the big barn as easily as you could see any one of those words individually. And do you really need to focus on the A and the N? Of course not. So Steve devised, when he was still a boy, this incredible method that he's been teaching all of his life with extraordinary success for thousands, maybe tens of thousands of people. And we've already shown you how to do that, and in a few minutes we'll rehearse the try-focus method. But, boy, keep in mind the importance of the passion side of focused passion. The best way to convince the eyeballs and the brain that operates them that this is very important to you is to love that book and really get into it. Fake it till you make it. Sure, you know you're just pretending, but you knew the movie was just a movie, and it still had its way in causing you to, through your imagination, really have that experience. If it was a comedy, you laughed. You didn't think, oh, it's just shadows on the wall. If it's a drama, an adventure, a romance, you weren't denigrating the experience by reminding yourself, oh, it's just a movie. These actors went home. You could at any time, but you allow your imagination to work with you. That's exactly the learning state that we call alpha learning.
So you close your eyes, you take a deep breath, you go to that paradise place, and you create that imaginary book, and for 2 seconds, you love that book. And you know, it's those 2 seconds that count the most, because after those 2 seconds, you're basking in the afterglow of that feeling. Your body's still vibrating from it, and that's when you imagine the 1, 2, 3, the left, center, right. And that's what makes it so powerful, because your mind connects it with this feeling that feels so good of loving this book. And so when you go to read a real book and it remembers that this feels so much better, it'll just start to do this by itself. We'll do this little exercise in a few minutes, but remember now, reading's just one piece of the whole concept. It's not studying. Reading is not studying. When you read something, the idea is you just pay attention to what you're reading, you comprehend it, you get the idea of what it means, but you're not thinking about, like, is this going to be on the test, or how does this experience relate to other things I've read before? That comes later. This is just reading without judgment. Do I like it? It doesn't matter. What matters now is that I'm exposing myself to it. I'm getting familiar with it. If I don't understand something right first time, it's okay. I'll come back. If there's something a word I didn't get and I can't quite figure it out, it's okay. I'll come back. And you know what? Even if I come back and I don't understand this concept, I can ask for help, and that'll come in next week's show. So eventually I know I can learn everything here. The first time through is just to read it. So here's what I do. Here's what you do. You close your eyes, you take a deep breath. Before you're about to study, you go to your safe and peaceful place, and you get into that alpha state. Just a deep breath, and imagine that place. And then, whatever book you're about to read, let's say it's history, you open that book, you open your eyes, and you open that book, and you look at the first chapter, just one page, and then the next page, and then the next page, just a few moments per page to take a picture of that page with your eye, to see a few words, to get your mind thinking history. Then you close your eyes again, back to your safe place, and you imagine why you love history. And if you really do, that's easy. And if you don't, just pretend that one day knowing this stuff will make you very successful and very powerful. Knowing this stuff will make you smarter and more attractive to everyone that you know. Figure out a way to pretend to be excited about learning this. Get excited, and then open your eyes and read. Read as long as your mind pays attention. Keep reading and keep reading and keep. But when you stop paying attention, that's time to stop. Doesn't matter how long that's been. A minute, 20 minutes, 10 minutes, 2 minutes, doesn't matter how long that's been, because when your mind stops paying attention, it's okay, you're done for the moment. You just close your eyes, Deep breath back to that place. And in just a few seconds, you're ready to open your eyes and pay attention again. And you keep doing that until that time period of maybe 20 minutes or an hour, or how long you want to study, till that period is up. Just go away and come back, go away and come back. And then, each time, you close your eyes after you've read and you let yourself think about what you read. Did you like it? Didn't you like it? Does it feel right to you? Do you agree with it? And then you open your eyes and go back over what you read. This is the study part now. Very quickly. I mean, you already read it. You already know what it says really quickly. And the stuff that you knew already, you even go faster. And the stuff that you understood when you read it, you go real fast. And the stuff that doesn't matter at all, you go real fast. You only slow down and carefully pay attention to the stuff that when you read it the first time, you realized, I don't quite understand this, or I think this is really important. And here's where it comes in time to really study and really put something into your memory bank. When you see something you really want to make sure you remember, the secret here is focused passion.
You know, Steve, listening to you, I'm thinking the idea that I love to understand is really redundant. I'm saying the same thing twice.
In a way, because love is understanding in that way. Yeah,
they're two sides of the same coin. Yeah. And gosh, if I were a student and somebody told me that and I got it, that I love to understand because I'm attracted to understanding, because it feels like love, which is safety and peace, and not just contentment, but a quality of fulfillment that longs for even more and loves the adventure. And it's just so cyclic and wonderful, this upward spiral of loving and feeling safe and relaxed and learning more and understanding even more. And I don't have to be married to every little idea. I don't have to take ownership of ideas. I can be flexible enough to philosophically balance what might at first blush look like conflicting ideas, and yet I see a little bit of merit in each of them, and I am the one that learns. I'm not just these facts and things that I think that I know. And so beyond the tools and techniques that we're teaching, I think, is this philosophy, if you will, of I love to learn.
And even though school thinks it's about making you know a lot of stuff, what you can make it about is making yourself a great thinker. You can use school to hone your mind to be a great thinker. Every subject gives you the opportunity to do that. History allows you to become a great thinker by understanding what other great thinkers did. Science allows you to become a great thinker by being a scientist, that is, doing experiments that expand your mind. And math, of course, in the same way, allows you a new way of thinking. Algebra allows you a new kind of thinking. And then English allows you a better way of expressing what you're thinking. Every class, if you see it from the point of view of, this could make me a better thinker, a smarter person, I can use more logical and more creative thinking skills, I can figure stuff out better, I can invent things better, I can solve problems better. If you think about school being like a gymnasium for your mind to become better at all the jobs it does, thinking and feeling and performing and being in relationships, then you can use this experience in such an amazingly powerful way and learn how to have a great life later. I mean, what can I say? The bottom line, what's school about? School's like about learning stuff so you can grow up and have a good life. That's what school's supposed to be. Well, this is what really it's about. School can really be about growing up and learning to have a great life, because no matter what happens to you for the rest of your life, once you've learned how to learn, you know both how to deal with what happens to you and how to respond with that perception, with that attitude, with that state of mind you're in when stuff does happen. Learning how to learn is the most important thing. In fact, I've known this since I was a really little boy. One of my earliest memories, my father said this to me. And I remember it from when I was maybe 4 years old. He said, "Education before you are old, for learning is better than silver or gold. For silver or gold will tarnish away, but a good education will never decay." And I've held that with me all my life. Learn to be a great learner. Learn to love learning. And it doesn't matter what the subject is, because you never know how learning about this might one day answer a question about that.
Yeah. You see, what we're really looking for, if you tap into the fountain of longing, desire in the best sense of the word, for something that lasts, something really true. That's what philosophy is. It's the love of truth. But you don't really get there so much as continue to unfold levels of realization and awareness. Not just, as Steve said, not just the accumulation of information, but a perspective and an attitude that says, yeah, this is who I am, and this is what I'm built for, and I really love to learn, because that's where meaning and maybe even purpose is found, in our experience, the experience of a unique self developing and realizing. And you get to be in charge, and imagine, you get to be this better learner, because it benefits you most of all. You get to put yourself first here, not in a selfish, but in the smartest way possible. And in many ways, I think this is just fundamental to philosophy itself. It's a longing to learn, a desire to understand that's felt really deeply inside, a search for truth, for a quality of something that lasts in a world where it seems that nothing really lasts. And boy, if you can jump on board with this longing, this appetite that you have to be a better learner, because it's just central to your essence, to your reason to be, that you're having an experience as a unique human being that nobody else is having, and wanting to understand that as fully and as deeply as possible. Can you think of a better reason to want to be a better learner than how it benefits you? And then you can maximize your contribution and your charity out into the world from that place.
So what do we mean by being a better learner, a better thinker? It means really three things: being great at remembering things, at figuring things out, and at making things up. That's what a great thinker can do.
Review those. That's great.
Yeah, it's the ability to remember things. Now, not necessarily memorize them, not necessarily being able to repeat them back exactly the way you heard them, but to be able to remember you learned this and what it means, the essence of it, to be able to bring the essence, to be able to remember things.
To retain and recall.
To retain and recall. That's one thinking skill. The other thinking skill is problem solving, figuring things out. You know, like when you've got a problem, whether it's a logical problem or an illogical problem, like a human problem that's not like, you got to be able to figure out how to deal with it. And sometimes you can figure out how to deal with it in a logical way. And sometimes you can't figure out how to deal with it in a logical way. And that's when you have to be a graduate of MSU, make stuff up. You got to figure out a different way of dealing with this kind of problem. You have to be creative. You have to use your intuition, your ingenuity, your insight, your ability to look at things other than your normal way of looking at things. So those three skills: the ability to remember stuff, to be able to figure stuff out, and be able to make stuff up. Now, you can use the whole schooling experience to get better at all of those three things. And the most important one, I think, in terms of being great at school is the remembering things one. You know, unfortunately, thinking is not as important in school as remembering is. If you can remember everything and put it on the test, they think you're great at school. Thinking is less important than making stuff up. Well, that's much less important in many cases. But remembering, that's a great place to start. The secret to remembering is to understand this one basic concept. You remember what you love, you remember what you hate. You remember what scares you and what excites you. You remember what you have a lot of emotion on. What you have trouble remembering, or what you don't remember, is what you're bored by, apathetic about, or indifferent to. The more emotion you have, the easier it is to remember. The less emotion, the harder it is to remember.
I'll tell you where I figured this out. I came home one day, put my keys down, did a bunch of stuff, had to run out and do another errand, went for the keys, and they weren't there. And I stopped and I thought about it for a second. And what came into my head, Steve, was what you just said, only it sounded like this inside my head. It was, well, the one thing you know is that when you put those keys down, you weren't paying attention. And then I began to think more about, well, that's all it takes to remember things, to retain and recall. Because, again, our memory's perfect. The brain's recording all of our experience. That's been proven. But to recall it, to access it, all I have to do is care about it.
That's the key. That's the key.
And so if I put my keys down and just said, this will be easy to remember,
Or say, that's the key. That's the key. That works too.
Being silly helps. It really does. The
It
memory's impressed with silly pictures. We'll talk more about that.
2 ways to remember where you put your keys. Always put them in the same place. That works. Or when you put them down, really pay attention. I put them down. I go, keys. There's my keys. Really pay attention and you'll remember.
Here's a little conundrum, but I want to play it out with you because it's really important as students and as learners of all ages here. We're going to call this remembering to remember. It's like, well, I wanted to remember. I tried to remember. Be careful of those tries, okay? Lots of folks will invest in having a bad memory. People will even put themselves down and talk about how they'd forget their head if it wasn't screwed on. And
it's like an excuse for making mistakes and forgetting things. Like, don't blame me. I have a bad memory.
Yeah, and
that's ridiculous.
Does not serve you because guess who's listening when you talk to yourself that way? You are, and the self-fulfilling nature of the brain then works to create a lack of emotional impact. That's what forgetting appears to be, that it just got filed way in the back of the filing cabinet because you didn't care about it. So if you ever find yourself saying, gee, I hope I remember this, well, instead of hoping or trying, tell yourself this will be easy to remember and bring yourself into the moment with a breath and let the experience saturate you. Whether it's a vacation in the most beautiful place you've ever visited and you want to recall these memories and put the camera aside and just soak it up, or whether you're in the middle of a textbook studying for an exam and you know this is an important concept and you want to be able to recall it so completely that it can be applied to all these other concepts that will be on the test, relax and pause. Let the world stop for just a moment and say to yourself, well, I understand this. This will be easy to remember.
And then imagine yourself remembering it. So that, for example, on a test, imagine yourself taking the test and remembering. Or imagine studying with somebody and they're quizzing you and you remember. Or imagine in a conversation it just happens to come up that Thomas Jefferson was the third president of the United States. Imagine yourself remembering it so that when it comes time to remember it for real, it knows the way home. It's already been there. It knows what route to take to come to your awareness. Always imagine yourself. And in the situation Michael originally alluded to, the remembering to remember. Say you're in a situation where somebody says right now, please remember to pick up, or please remember to do your homework and study for the test coming up Friday. The teacher says, remember to do your homework tonight and study for the test coming up Friday. And
hopefully they don't say, don't forget.
Yeah, hopefully they say, please remember instead of
and
don't
we'll talk
forget.
about why in a minute. I wanted to add that, though.
That's
we
a good
hear
point.
a lot of that. Go ahead.
So if the teacher says, please remember to do your homework and study for the test coming up Friday, instead of hoping that you're going to remember that later tonight, you pick a time in your mind right now. You're sitting in class. Okay, I think after dinner would be the time I want to do that homework and study for that test. So you close your eyes, or you just imagine yourself after dinner. Imagine like it is now. It's after dinner, and you're seeing yourself finishing dinner and going, oh, that was a great dinner. Go, well, and I'm ready to study. My brain is ready to take on that information. I'm ready to learn this. And pretend it's really exciting, even if it's not. Pretend it's really exciting that you're really ready to learn. And see it right after dinner or at that time you choose. And so you'll remember to remember.
Yeah, and again, use the positive language. Whether you want to encourage yourself to remember or encourage somebody else to remember, say it'll be easy to remember because I care about it and that'll make it easy to remember. But if you use negatives like don't forget, a double negative essentially, well, it's like that classic example, don't think of a blue cow. And there it is. Now think of a blue cow. There's no difference. Reflect on how the mind works. Don't forget is the same as you're probably going to forget this. You know what a screw-up you are, and think of all the other times you forgot it. Wait a minute, but you told yourself don't forget. Sounds the same as forget to me. All right? So use the positive language. It'll be easy to remember. And then add the emotional impact of, I remember the last time I remembered, and that felt really good. And I'm remembering now how it feels to remember. Oh, yeah, aha, what a great feeling. That'll be easy.
And imagine how good that will feel for the rest of your life. I mean, just like project for a moment, getting older and having a great memory all the way to the end. Imagine having a great memory. And imagine what that will mean in terms of just conversations, just in terms of friendships that you're going to have, that you remembered what happened, you remember their birthdays, you remember important events in their lives, you remember how things went down, and people can look at you and go, people always look at me. I love this. People always come to me and say, Steve, you remember that time that? And I go, oh, yeah, of course I remember. And I tell them all about the time because they look to me as a resource because they know I have a great memory. Having a great memory makes you appear to be smarter. It doesn't mean necessarily that you are, but it's certainly one of the tools. If you have a great memory and also are a great problem solver, a great thinker, and a great creative thinker, then I think that does mean you're smarter. At least you're better and faster at using your mind more effectively. And I think that results, as we've found in our lives, in growth, success, and fulfillment.
Now, there are a lot of very cool, frankly, just darn cool techniques that you can learn, though they're a little more labor-intensive than we can do for you now. So we'll just tell you about them when it comes to memory. For example, memory pegs. I like the Lucas-Lorraine method, but a little Google search or a trip through your local library, you'll find a dozen other books on learning how to use mental pictures and mental rehearsal, often silly constructs in the mind, to make it easy to remember lists or to remember names. The use of mnemonics, for example. I grew up in Michigan, and we learned the Great Lakes as a place where there are homes: Huron, Ontario, Michigan, Erie, and Superior. It made it easy to remember the 5 Great Lakes. And a good student is a boy or a girl, a woman or a man, who has fun with pictures and rhymes and mnemonics and little memory pegs that you teach yourself and make up right there on the spot with an attitude of, this will be easy to remember.
One of my memory heroes is a guy named Scott Bornstein, and I always remember his name because he had me imagine him being born with a stein of beer in his hand. So I got that picture in my mind forever. When it comes time to learn things, to study, to make things up, and to figure things out, being better and better at that has such great value in your life. So while remembering, especially on the test, is especially valuable to your grades in school, actually learning how to think more effectively is much more valuable to the grades you're going to give yourself in life, to the challenges you're going to face, to the relationships you're going to have, to the life that you're going to live. So learning how to learn now in the years when your mind is like most ready to understand. You might be saying, well, but I don't want to learn. School's boring and I don't really want to learn. Well, people do want to learn. I mean, take a look at babies. Babies want to learn. People are born wanting to learn. Something had to have happened to make you not want to learn. And you say, well, sure, something happened. They're trying to teach me stuff that's not interesting. Well, yeah, to you it's not interesting, but there's somebody in the class that is finding it interesting. It's not that it's not interesting, it's that you're not interested, and you got to take responsibility for that, because there's nothing that's interesting and there's nothing that's boring. There are people that are interested and people that are bored in any subject you can name. So yeah, you can find some classes that most people think are boring, but there's always those few. In fact, somebody is even teaching that thing. Remember? Somebody wrote the book. So understand, you have the ability to get interested in anything, and if the reason to get interested is not because the subject matter is interesting, but the thought of exercising your mind, of building your thinking skills, of growing your memory bank, of becoming smarter, if that's not enough incentive for you, imagine what that will mean later on in your life, and it becomes enough incentive for you.
Exactly. The learning is a lifestyle idea where learning never ends, because you're now moving into an area that you really, really care about. I remember when I first went off to college, I thought I could major in whatever I was interested in and study only that. And boy, was I surprised when I found out I had to take some basics, even stuff I had in high school, but I had to take it again. That's not just a matter of adding to what you already know, but creating a better learner. And then as your education advances through college and maybe graduate school and out into the world, this learning process continues with even more gusto and more enthusiasm, because you're no longer limited to the course catalog. It can be whatever you're interested in. And people who are in specialties, boy, you look at their passion. I mean, I could not personally imagine being an accountant, but the guy that does all my taxes, man, he's really good at it because he just loves it. He loves numbers. He loves columns and the way they add up. He just burns for that, not me. But, he's probably not interested in what I'm interested in. Life is so rich. It so boggles my mind, Steve, when I hear somebody say, regardless of their age, that they're bored. And, how could life be boring unless you're totally invested in being a victim, and a helpless victim at that, when there's so much to learn? There's so many opportunities to be interested that when I find somebody who's bored, I find somebody that's not interested because they don't know all there is to be interested in, because they don't really know to honor those feelings inside that say, pursue that passion, pursue that interest, have fun with it, read books about it, learn all that you can, Google it, study it. The rewards are outrageous for that.
And that's where you have to start. You want to become a great learner. Start by being a great learner of stuff that you love to learn. What's your favorite subject? Or what's your favorite thing? What's your favorite anything? What's your favorite thing you want to know more about? And read about that. Study about. I don't care what school says you have to learn. You get to do that too. I'm saying what you need to do is you need to learn how to love to learn by scratching the itch of your curiosity. There's something you want to know. There's lots of stuff everybody wants to know. It's different for each of us. But find what you want to know the most. And then, when you read it, here's how you read it. You use the study skills method. You scan over the material to get your mind warmed up. You get in touch with how interesting this is, and you read until your mind wanders away. Keep reading until your mind wanders away. And then close your eyes and think about it for a few moments. And then when you go back, here's the key now. When you go back and you're reading back over it and you're going, that's cool, that's cool, that's cool. But you see those things that you really want to remember the most, those things that you want to quote to your friends, or those things that you want to be able to know and understand better. When you get to those things that you really want to know and learn, you stop. You slow down. You read through it again, and maybe even again and again, until you can finally say to yourself, and this is the secret, this is what I've been doing all my life. When I finally get it, I say to myself, got it. That's mine. I got it. It's like I own that. That's mine now. I get that fact. I know that fact is in my memory bank. Anytime I want it, I have it. It just did it. Got it. I own it. Anytime I come across a fact or a quote or a statistic or anything that I want to make sure I remember, I stop. I read it few times, and I really put a lot of passion on the fact that that's mine. I own that information now.
So it starts with interest, even if you're really not interested, a matter of conjuring it up and thinking of all the benefits that come from finding something to be of interest in this thing that only appears to not be very interesting, okay? It's a playful attitude. And then there's the learning, the drinking it in, the soaking it up, the pondering, the reflecting, the pausing, all right? The remembering. Now let's talk about application. Let's talk about different ways that you can be an ever better student in school and in life by thinking of the ramifications, the implications, and the consequences. How am I going to apply this knowledge in a variety of areas in my life?
Let's start with the real basics, okay? How you're going to be a great student is you have to start with a good night's sleep, a good breakfast, and some exercise in your life. Your brain won't work great unless you do those three things. So let's start with those basics, and I'm not going to talk about how to do any of those things. We've got shows on all those subjects, but start with that. Make sure you get a good night's sleep, make sure you're eating really well, and make sure you're getting some physical exercise in your life. And then waking up in the morning is the next thing you want to make sure you do well. So you program your mind to wake up in the morning looking forward to school. You get the idea in your mind before you go to bed tonight. What's the favorite part about school? Maybe it's lunch, hanging out with your friends, but whatever your favorite thing you're looking forward to in the next day, you imagine yourself waking up in the morning, and the first thought in your mind is, I'm really looking forward to going and being there and learning these things. And then think about the classes and the teachers. Think about the teachers. Remember, the better you can have a feel for what they're looking for from you, the better grade you can get. When they talk, listen not just to the words they're saying, but what they're most interested in. You can hear by the passion in their voice. What subjects do they seem to want to dwell on? Because that's what's going to be on the test. What they're most interested in is the stuff they want to teach you the most. And even when they're forced to teach to the test, as unfortunately many have to do, they're still giving you clues as to what's most important for you to learn. So pay attention to your teachers. And then also, with every class that you have, think about, what good is it knowing this? What good is it knowing history? What good is it knowing English? What good is it? Because it is good. And if you can't think of a reason why it is good, then make something up. That's the other part. Invent a reason. Imagine that by learning this, some person you're really, really looking forward to being a friend with wants to know about it, and you know about it, and they like that you know about it. It makes you smart. Think about all the reasons it would be great to be smarter. All the reasons it would be great to know more things, but most important, all of the reasons that it works for you to have your mind sharper and faster and clearer in every area of your life.
Now, applying what we've learned and understand in the world or in the classroom often creates stress and anxiety that degrades performance. Don't we all know the feeling of, darn it, I know that I know this information, but I'm feeling so pressured and so stressed and so physically tense in my body. I'm having a hard time bringing it up. Yeah, because your body thinks you're in danger now, and it's totally turning away in your brain in terms of chemistry and electric firing going on inside the neurons from understanding and application to survival. So breathe, relax, let go of the survival, I'm safe, and come back to understanding. And especially in test taking, to manage this anxiety. It's called performance anxiety. Again, we see it in sports and in public speaking and certainly in test taking. I mean, imagine if you were taking a test in a room where you were being monitored by somebody who just sat in a corner. You'd feel one level of anxiety, probably would not impede your test taking, your performance that much at all. But imagine if 2 or 3 people came in with white lab coats and stopwatches and clipboards and began to move among you, and they're taking notes and looking over your shoulder. Well, you would have no idea what they're doing, perhaps. That would make it even worse. But just the added tension and pressure and the anxiety, the stresses, the worries, and the fears would be so distracting as to clearly degrade your performance. So, regardless of the nature of the pressure, often it's just we impose it on ourselves as if trying harder is going to improve our performance. And the secret is to find the balance. Because if you didn't care at all, you wouldn't do your best. But if you try too hard and feel as if I really, really need this, then you could go too far the other way. So we're looking for a balance. Can you feel the balance? Breathe and relax. This will be easy to remember. I know this material. In fact, I remember I even talked to the teacher about it one day and asked them what they thought was important. And they told me, and I know that I know this material and I care about it, but not too much. Letting go. Find the balance in the teeter-totter here and walk right down that balanced way, that centered path, feeling how it feels to be a great learner. One who is getting better and better at taking tests. Remembering now, even as you move from one right answer to the next question, which you know you're going to answer correctly, and the feeling builds, you're also recalling the rehearsal that you did just last night and maybe the day before, imagining taking this very test and how wonderful it felt to do what you're doing now. And yeah, I know that one, and ooh, this caught me by surprise, but let's take a breath, feel safe. I have a few moments. Oh, I see what this is about. Okay, I know this. In fact, I can say that in a very concise way there on this essay test or on this multiple choice exam. Well, I know it's not that, and that it's not that, so I get it down to the, well, it's got to be, okay, it's got to be that. And if you're not sure, you move on and review the test taking that we talked about in our last program, but do it from this easy, balanced place. That's what I want you to get. That the passion we're talking about is the enthusiasm of knowing this balance between trying and caring and needing to do well, but not going overboard, because the harder you try, then the worse you do. Walk that middle path.
So how would it feel if you knew that you were going to learn everything in those books, everything that the teacher was talking about? Because if you didn't get it the first time, then you could get it the second time. And even if you didn't get it the second time, you could ask for help. We'll talk about that in our next program. And you just knew that eventually, either by yourself or with some help, you're going to learn it all. You just knew that. Start with that idea in mind, that whatever it is that you're setting out to learn, you're smart, you're focused, you're passionate, and you're able to learn it. You are in charge of your interest, you are in charge of your attitude, and you are in charge of your attention. So that when you start learning, you get interested, you have the intention, I want to learn this, and then you get yourself interested, you psych up, you get excited, and then you read for as long as your mind is paying attention, and when it stops paying attention, it's your job to, instead of spacing out for a long time, just go inside and space out for a short time at your peaceful place in your paradise, and then bring yourself back with confidence and with interest to what you're studying, and then read again for as long as your mind goes. And after you've done a couple or a few of those, and it's time, you close your eyes and you think about what you read. And then you go back and study it. And remember, when you see something you really want to know, you put a lot of emotion into it, a lot of passion into it. And we're going to do a guided imagery that's going to reinforce some of the stuff we've talked about on an alpha exercise. We call them audio journeys, finding yourself in paradise. But understand that here's the bottom line on it all, that even though school is focusing on knowing the stuff, that doesn't have to be your focus. Yeah, you'll know stuff. You'll know a lot of stuff, but your focus could be learning to be better at thinking. And school is a wonderful opportunity to become better and better at remembering things, figuring things out, and making things up.
And remember, there are objective facts in the world, but you are a subjective being. It's what you care about. It's your point of view. That's where you make the biggest contribution. And you will never be superior by being a better learner to everyone. Grant everyone their dignity. What you're developing is your uniqueness, your genuine, authentic self. And so you're not better than or inferior to. How could you be? You're just different from being the best you can be, better and better. You don't have to fear being really smart, you see. It can be really cool and really hip to be smart because you're non-judgmental. You're just, I'm smart at being me, and I'm smart at being interested in what I'm interested in. And in that regard, we're all equal. I mean, you understand that distinction, that like everybody's equal under the law, they have equal rights and equal access, hopefully, and equal opportunity. But obviously, we're all different. We're all unique. I saw a card once that said, congratulations, you're unique just like everybody else. I think it's a cool little riddle to play with that idea. Yeah, I'm unique just like everybody else, but in fact, both things are true.
So you, being unique, have to learn how to learn the way that works best for you. And it starts with you being a great learner at the thing you want to learn the most. Don't start your being a great learner trying to learn something you don't want to learn. Start with what you want. What are you most interested in already? What is exciting you? What tickles your fancy? What really titillates your funny bone? What are you interested in? And go read about that. Go listen to people talk about that. Go learn about that. And in that process, you'll learn to be a great learner, and then you can take that into everything else. Greatness at any endeavor spills over into every endeavor. So learn how to learn something you love to learn. If you're not very good at math, but you really love baseball, then learn your math through baseball. Learn batting averages and earned run percentages and all the kinds of mathematical analysis that goes on in the wonderful game of baseball. Go from your strength. You see, it's not that you're not a good learner. You are a good learner in the areas that you're really passionately interested in. And you can learn how to make that spill over into every other area. Remember, you can become interested in anything because it's really not about the subject. It's about honing your thinking skills. It's about being smarter, better, faster. It's about using your mind more effectively so you can create growth, success, prosperity, fulfillment, all the wonderful things you want to have. What do you want to be when you grow up? Well, I think what I always wanted to be when I grew up was smart. And I really appreciate how valuable that is in my life.
Dream your dreams. Do not fear being a dreamer. It's not airy-fairy or blue sky to dream. That would be wishing. This is different. Henry David Thoreau, the great American transcendentalist, said, dream your dreams this way. He said, build your castles in the sky. That's where they belong. And then put foundations under them. Start with the dreaming of how wonderful it would be, how free you would be to be a great learner and to honor and to acknowledge what inside you wants to be understood.
Close your eyes. That deep breath, I love those deep breaths. Release and find that paradise place of perfect peace. Another deep breath. Feel yourself there. In paradise. And remember where you stashed that wonderful magic book? And pull it out and take a look. And hold that book now in your hands and feel a surge of passion there at your command. I want you to take that book and hug it to your chest, and I want you to give it your all now, your very best, as you love that book. Come on, more. Yes! Open it up, look inside, see a page with the trifocus exercise. Get ready now. We're going to move the eyes. Here we go. Left, center, right, left, center, right, left, center, right. Stop, rest the eyes, and realize every time you read, you're reading the trifocus. When you're reading the trifocus, your concentration is total and complete. When your concentration is less than total and complete, your eyes will stop. Imagine yourself now being a great learner, being able to remember with great detail everything you choose, being able to solve problems, and being able to figure out new solutions, being able to create new inventions. Imagine being really, really smart. And understand that you can use the experience of school to create that result. So imagine you are a great reader. Imagine you are a great learner. Imagine you are a great student who gets the results that you choose. And as you feel the passion for making that dream come true, know you can. You can. And take a deep breath and bring yourself back to wide awake.
Be the one who cares. Follow your heart. Get excited. Dream impossible dreams and then realize them. Allow yourself to think not only logically and deductively, but to, in the complementary way, stand open and receptive to all the possibilities that there are in the world and that come from deep within you. And join us next week for what will be part 4, or the 5th of our 5 parts, counting the intro. How are we going to sum it up?
It's basically about, now that you know how to learn yourself, now you're going to know how to learn with others. We're going to talk about how to listen and do teamwork, how to learn in a team. We're going to talk about asking for help and resolving conflicts, about working with other people, how to have great relationships, as learning is not a solo process throughout our lives. We learn with other people, and how to do that is so important in being successful and happy. So learning how to learn with others, how to play nice. That's what we're going to talk about.
Okay, so that's the final installment of our 5-part mini-series called The Family Learning Hour, coming up next week on this audio program, Finding Yourself in Paradise. Thanks for being with us today, and as always, be gentle, love life, and take care of each other. For Steve Snyder, this is Michael Benner.